Welcome back to BunkaiGaming, this is Matt. So today I want to talk about Destiny's PvP side of the game. That's the player versus player. I've only just recently played the February Iron Banner event as well as the Crimson Day event that played earlier in the month. And one of the cardinal sins of any first person shooter is when you lose a gunfight, not through your lack of skill or knowledge, but due to some game mechanic that puts you at a disadvantage and gives the player another advantage. Trying to create a system that places unskilled and skilled players on the same level ends up alienating the skilled player base and gives the unskilled players this false sense of actual skill level. In December, Bungie decided to implement a more heavy skill-based matchmaking to all the playlists in the Crucible. Players started to notice the difference in matches as they became what they call more sweaty, and this is where you end up facing people of a similar skill level. But the offset was, this introduced more issues with lag due to the fact that the matchmaking had to search outside the normal radius to match up with similar skilled players. So what can happen in the end is it feels like you're actually fighting the game more than you're actually fighting the other players. Because you feel like the game is giving them these advantages where you cannot hit them, where they're basically unkillable, and where you're dying all the time, where you move behind cover and then you suddenly die. And it's very, very frustrating in that regards. So to give you an example of this is from the recent Iron Banner event. So as you can see in this clip, I basically see this person on the radar, so I start to back up to get away from them. The guy takes 2 shots at me, and then you can see that the third shot suddenly goes through the wall and hits me. So we're going to slow it down and have a look at it. As you can see, the first shot, the second shot, and then you see the third shot come through the wall. And this is a very much an example of what we're encountering on a regular basis when in the Crucible. So as a way to try and mitigate this, Bungie recently implemented what they call the damage referee. And this is to prevent these red bar laggy players becoming these godlike players that end up topping the leaderboard match after match. Unfortunately, I don't feel like this has made a huge difference to the game, because I still see that regularly red bar players are still at the top of the scoreboard and leaving other players with good connections frustrated and shaking their heads. So to give you another example here, as you can see here, we have the lobby just prior to the game, and you'll see that there's one particular player that goes to a red bar. Now, I'm assuming that this means this person has been chosen as the host console, and as such, the damage referee will use this to base all damage from this console itself. So, even though my connection shows as a green bar, I am wondering, is the host console seeing my connection as something different? Because I feel at times that I'm applying damage to people, but it's not hitting them like it should be. So is the damage referee looking at my connection and saying that it's unacceptable and then applying the penalties to it? But this becomes more worrisome as we walk into matches where everybody's a green bar. But you feel at times that the connections aren't a green bar. They feel more like a yellow bar, sometimes a red bar connection. I'm just wondering, is the game itself misinterpreting people's connection? Or is the game incorrectly detecting the person's connection to the host? Without knowing the specifics of how the game determines this, or represents the connections to the host console, it's anybody's guess how this is determined. But I've also seen something interesting, so it's made me come up with this theory. So as a habit these days, I make it a priority to look at the connections prior to and after each game. And I noticed something very interesting. As the game finishes and it's about to switch back to the orbit screen, it looks like the game is re-evaluating everybody's connections. And I feel at this point in time, this is showing a more true reflection of what the lobby's connections are. And I watch this happen on a regular basis at the end of a lot of matches. Now, I do realise that some of these issues lie in the way the matches are actually handled through peer-to-peer. Now, peer-to-peer games can be influenced by so many factors, either directly or indirectly to the console hosting the match. I know dedicated servers may alleviate some of these issues, but it's not going to fix everything. Dedicated servers will balance the playing field and prevent players manipulating the system to give them a greater advantage. But I have heard people say that dedicated servers will not fix the issues with laggy players, which is true. But this is not the job of the server to do. This has more to do with the actual matchmaking system, either preventing these players being placed in the match in the first place, or removing them from the game when they exceed certain thresholds. So the question still remains, what is the core of the problem? Is it the peer-to-peer system? Or is it the fact that the netcode itself could be to blame for a lot of what we're seeing? Battlefield 4 is a great example of a game that plays on dedicated servers, yet the netcode was hindering a great deal of the player base. DICE has made adjustments to the netcode several times in an attempt to try and correct the problems. So the big question for Bungie here, is it even possible to fix these problems? Or is it going to take too much time, resource and money to try and correct them? Without completely removing matchmaking, I doubt very much that we'll see this problem resolved in the current version of Destiny. I think also what's contributing to it is the pool of players is shrinking within the Crucible. And it's starting to reach a point where it may not be possible to get good connection in matches. As the matchmaking is increasing the radius to find players to bring into the match, it has to pull people from a further distance away, hence why we're getting people with worse connections. And Bungie has also stated that they've wanted to try and maintain that all the subclasses within the game itself try to maintain around a 1-to-1 KD for an average player. Of course, a more skilled or seasoned player will be able to maintain a higher KD than, say, a casual player. But I also know that Bungie is working very hard and actively to try and correct these issues and try and improve the experience for us players. And I do realise there's going to be always that small percentage of players that Bungie is not going to be able to help just due to their poor internet connections. But I do appreciate the fact that Bungie is actively listening to us as a community and trying to do something to fix these problems. So my only hope is that Bungie can take what the really great aspects of the PvP side of the game now and put that into Destiny 2 and then help eliminate these issues that we're seeing currently. Because I think that if the problems continue in the next version of Destiny, I doubt that the community is going to be as forgiving as they are now. So thank you very much for watching. Please leave a comment below if you'd like, and I will talk to you in the next video. Thank you, bye.